Hey class, I know that you were probably very disappointed that class was canceled today. Um, and I know that we have spring break next week, and which means that we probably won't be able to see each other for 3 entire weeks. So we have last week, this coming week, and then the week after spring break. So I know that's a long time. But yeah, I really wanted to talk to you about the readings that we had this week. Um, I'm not going to talk about them a whole bunch because I know that you're not here to for us to have a discussion about it. But I really wanted to point out a few things about the readings we did this week. So we talked about Plato, and we read some of Freud, and we read some of Jung. And I know I have some drawings up on the screen here for you guys to check out. Hopefully they help me understand the readings a little bit better. So yeah, we read Plato's The Allegory of the Cave, and some things that I wanted to see about the difference between how these guys thought about how our mind works, how our subconscious works, which I know is a crazy kind of topic, and it's hard to understand, but see if we can unpack what these guys were saying about it. So as you know from the reading, Plato talked about how it seemed that we couldn't trust our senses of the real world, that they were incapable of experiencing the real world. He thought that the real world was like a sort of heaven, and we were getting to know it. I believe he thought that before we were born, that we experienced some kind of heaven, that we knew truth absolutely. So you can see the circle represents our mind, and this arrow I have here just representing truth coming into it. So we knew truth in the beginning, and through our experiences, being born and living, we've forgotten it. And at this point, we are trying to remember what it's like, and so we are trying to get to know truth, and get to know heaven, the heaven that was in our mind at the beginning. And so that's kind of what Plato is thinking. So truth was in our mind. Through our experiences, we started to forget it. And now that we're in our life and we have forgotten it, we're trying to remember it. We're trying to get to know it. We're trying to, Plato talked about ascend to a point so we can meditate on truth and seek it and know it. And I just wrote some things down from the reading here. He kind of asserted that there was a reality beyond our senses, where absolute truth exists. So I know that we've been talking about absolute truth lately, but Plato believed that there was such a thing. He also believed that we must ascend towards that truth and learn to see it, or else we turn our back on truth. And he's also talking about when we learn to see the truth, we can help others or rule justly. And he talked about how he had that example of a court case, and he argued that how could someone do justly in a court case if he had not contemplated absolute justice. And so to follow his reasoning, if we are contemplating truth, absolute justice, if we're ascending to the heights to contemplate that thing, means that we can come back and to our normal world, and then we can make a just ruling in a court case. But again, how can we do that if we have not been contemplating and aspiring and seeking what absolute justice is? So yeah, it's kind of what Plato was talking about. Freud, on the other hand, he was arguing that he didn't think that our subconscious was coming from anything outside of ourselves. He thought that things from our subconscious came from our experiences. So if this is us here, there's nothing streaming into our subconscious, nothing here, but through our experiences, we have things that happen to us that we repress and get stuck in our subconscious, and that through analysis we try to figure out what those things are and accept them and overcome them. So yeah, there's nothing outside of us coming in. It's just all of our experiences. That's what makes up our subconscious, according to Freud. And some things I wrote down about things that he was talking about. So when our conscious mind, our awake mind, the mind that we're aware of, is overwhelmed, our feelings are pushed into the unconscious. And so Freud was really into analyzing dreams, because he was saying that dreams are a complex way for us to deal with those problems. And if we can analyze those dreams and bring those unconscious anxieties to our conscious mind, we can accept and deal with those issues. So yeah, that's kind of what Freud was talking about in his, what was that reading called? The Oedipus Complex. So in that one, he is talking about, he uses the two examples from literature to show us how the Oedipus complex works. And then Jung, on the other hand, Jung was a student of Freud, but they kind of had a disagreement on where stuff in our unconscious comes from, and Jung kind of broke away. So in this drawing I have here, so let's say this is us, Jung was saying that in our experiences, similar to Freud, yes, we repress things and they get stuck in our subconscious mind, but he was saying that doesn't explain everything, that there's also other things somehow streaming into our subconscious mind. He called that the collective conscience. So we have our personal experiences and our personal things that get stuck in our subconscious, but he also said that there is something outside of us that's kind of like a universal conscious mind that's pouring into us. And in that sense, it's a little bit similar to Plato, because there's something outside of us that's in our subconscious mind. So some things Jung said about that. So he agreed with Freud. Yes, there are experiences that overwhelm us and we repress them, but he kept saying that there's got to be more than that. Because he was saying if Freud were right, the subconscious content acquired during a person's life, we should be able to empty that by analysis. And since those experiences are limited, the contents must be limited. However, this does not seem to be the case. So yeah, our experiences, the stuff from our life, that should be a limited amount of stuff. We should be able to analyze that and empty that. But there seems to be a limitless amount of information and stuff in our subconscious. And so he was saying there is universal images in our minds, such as the images and symbols that we see in mythology. That seems to be really similar in particular cultures, in lots of different cultures, that there's these universal symbols that we all have in our mind. And so he's saying that those things do exist, and he's trying to figure out where they come from. So hopefully that helps in just an overarching idea of where they're coming from, with what they are talking about. Again, Plato, we have this idea of heaven that we've forgotten, and we're spending our life ascending to try to figure that out and remember it, and aspiring towards that, aspiring towards the absolute truth, absolute justice, these absolute ideas that are outside of us. And then Freud, there's nothing outside of us streaming in, it's all our personal experiences that get repressed into our subconscious, and we try to analyze those and accept them and deal with them. And then Jung, a little bit more than Freud, we do have those experiences that get repressed, but there's something else, a collective unconscious, a universal unconscious, that is somehow in our mind as well. And I think it's important for us at this point to look at these and kind of think, where do my conscious and subconscious thoughts come from? If there is a universal conscious or a collective subconscious, where does that come from? And so, like we talked about transcendentalism last time, a transcendentalist might say, well, it comes from something that transcends us. Someone who believes in God would say, well, it comes from God, and and that's where it comes into my mind and everybody's mind. But as for us, I think it's worthwhile to think about, where do these things come from, and how should I think about it? So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, and I will let you guys go.